Hey everybody, I am expecting Alameda County Supervisor Nate Miley, and there he is. I'm adding him to the stream. Hey Nate, how are you?
Okay.
Let's see me get your.
1500 speaks to your practical get things done side.
I think we've got a background noise there.
That's the adventure secret.
That's not
Is there any radio?
You want to go, do what you
Hey Nate, is there a radio there?
Season. Get 10% off MSRP on a new Ram 1500 Bighorn
Can you
for
turn
an
off your
average
radio in
savings
the
of
background?
$61.70, or get 10% off MSRP
Hold on a
on a
second.
new 2023 Jeep
Nate,
Compass for an average savings of $39.20. Hurry in today and drive home in your brand new Ram truck or Jeep.
Nate? Well, that's not you. Wait a minute. Is that you? That is you. That's me. Sorry about that, Nate. That's my error.
Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here,
unmute. Hold on
welcome.
a second.
My name is Gillian Perkins, and I'm an online business strategist who specializes.
It opened up automatically all these other windows that should not have been opened.
Oh,
I was like, what is that? Yeah, how you doing?
it's been a long day. Started at 8:30 this morning with the JPA and just finished
Oh, I
up
missed
the
the
last.
JPA meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know how I did that.
Yeah.
I do know how I did that. So I'm going to cut right to the chase since I don't know. It's just been a whirlwind. I've been up late talking about the A's all night long and everything else. And so, what do you think about the athletics? And I imagine this is a conversation at JPA meeting, but what do you think of the athletics deal approved by the Nevada legislature?
Well, once again, it's hard for a city like Oakland to compete with, Vegas and the state of Nevada. And I think, I'm not privy to the negotiations that the city was having with the A's. The city said they were close, but I do know that this thing has dragged on for quite a while. So, we kind of saw the writing on the wall, I think, in terms of the A's scouting out Las Vegas, over the last, I don't know, maybe 2 years. Yeah. So
Technically 4.
yeah,
Technically,
yeah.
you know.
So I think I just think the A's finally were able to make a deal happen in Las Vegas and gave up on Oakland.
Looking back, how would you sum up what has gone down with the athletics over the history that you've been county supervisor, city councilman? Because I remember September 31st. This is my brain, Nate. I remember September 31st of 1996, the Community Economic Development Committee meeting that morning, and I agendized that we needed to plan for a new stadium for the A's, and you said, we already spent, that was in 97, I'm sorry. So you already spent $200 million getting the Raiders back, and now we have to worry about the A's. And I said, yeah, because Camden Yards, shifted the deal. But it's been that long, at least, since we've talked, you and I, about a stadium in some kind of form for the athletics. How do you just sum up all that we went through with this?
I think with the A's, we fumbled the ball. When I say we, I think the city of Oakland and all of us associated with the city of Oakland. And I think
I agree.
Probably the main culprit, I would say, would be Jerry Brown. Because if Jerry Brown hadn't fired Robert Bobb, we would have had a downtown ballpark for the Oakland A's. And all of this journey we've gone on since that time would have been null and void, because the A's would have been playing in downtown Oakland. We'd have a facility like they have in San Francisco, Pac-Bell Park. Yeah. But so I think that, to me, I attribute the loss of the A's to going back.
Every carrier has goals in mind.
Sorry, Nate. Go ahead. That's just.
I attribute the loss of the A's to going back in that point in time, because ever since then, the A's have been trying to find a suitable location, if not in Oakland, in the county. And, they've scouted around Texas, Austin. I mean, think of Arizona, Vegas. I mean, maybe even back in Tennessee or somewhere. I'm not sure. But the point is,
Nashville.
Yeah, they've been looking around. So I would say they've been looking around for at least the last two plus decades.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at least that long. And they have not been able to fulfill their desire to have a new ballpark. And I don't think, once again, the most recent iteration, I blame a lot of that on the Fisher, John Fisher, wanting to have a downtown ballpark on Howard Terminal when he could have. I mean, if he really cared about the team and the fans, he could have built a brand new ballpark with public support at the Coliseum site. The A's could, continue to play at their existing facility, and they probably would have had a spanking brand new ballpark, but at this point in time at the Coliseum site. And if he wanted like a waterfront or other amenities, etc., that package could have been, created for him. We could have built, I mean, it's near the estuary, but if necessary, we could have built a man-made lake. And so many things that could have happened, but for Fisher wanting to go to Howard Terminal. So
Libby really set him up for that, didn't he?
Yeah. So I go back in time to Jerry Brown, but then fast forward, I just think the ownership hasn't been committed to wanting to legitimately stay in Oakland.
What could you also put the blame on us? And I go back to when it was March 31st of 2021, and Commissioner Manfred we said, we're going to start looking at Oakland, as you might remember, because, we're not seeing movement or words to that effect. We're not going to start looking at Las Vegas, I'm sorry, because we're not seeing movement in Oakland. And that became the parallel path strategy.
Yeah.
But after that, there came the calls to have the meeting with the County of Alameda over term sheet. And then I thought we were supposed to go from there and establish the enhanced infrastructure financing district for Howard Terminal. And instead of that happening, I remember saying, Libby said on my program that we didn't have the staff at that time to do what we used to, which is traditional redevelopment. But instead of changing those affairs, and be candid, I wanted to head that thing. So I made no secret of that. Okay. But instead of just calling all hands on deck, like Robert Bobb would say, right? She left it to the people she criticized. Mm-hmm. So, but from your perspective with the county, what happened where the wheels got stalled? And from your perspective, because I remember you and I talked, we would say, well, when is the Howard Terminal, meeting coming up? And it was always, well, we haven't heard from them yet.
Yeah, I think Libby's legacy could have been delivering a new ballpark for the Oakland A's. That could have been her lasting legacy, but because it really needed to happen on her watch. Because I think once she was kind of a lame duck and leaving office, everything just kind of came to a grinding halt, and that's time.
Mm-hmm.
It's already behind schedule. I mean, they thought they'd be in a new ballpark by now, or at least by 2024. So, yeah. So I just think I'm not. I don't want to put blame on Libby, but I think if maybe she could have made that her signature. Hello. If she could make that her signature piece in terms of her legacy, I think that would have been good. But yeah, there've been a lot of I know a lot of folks are upset with the A's, and as I said, rightfully so, because I think different ownership might have done things differently. But I think there's a lot of blame to go around. There's a lot of blame to go around.
Yeah. And I'm not. I guess for me, and I think we have a conversation. We know each other enough, and everybody knows the drill. But for me, Nate, what I found difficult was that we seem to have become hyper politicized and go in our compartments. And I think what I went to school to do, not just me, but the professional planner, and has been pushed aside. And I remember this came to my face in a sense when I was interviewing Oakland Councilmember Dan Kelb, who I love as a person, really do, as yourself. and all friends, and it came to my view, however, that we all want to say what we did or anything else, as opposed to what we used to do, which is a task force. And I'm
Mhm.
wondering if we can ever get back to that. Is that possible?
Yeah, I think all things are possible, but yeah,
And
yeah.
because I remember you, and I thought quite rightly, to be honest, sounded the bell which said the county has to get out of the sports business
Hmm.
because the way we were doing. Can you take people back? Because there are people watching now who I will say 85% of them, if not 90, have no history. They're all new to this because of what the A's did. There are a lot of newbies out there.
Hmm.
Explain
Hmm.
to them what happened at that time.
Yeah, well, the county is responsible for providing services to vulnerable populations, low incomes, seniors, at-risk youth, formerly incarcerated, people are marginalized, um, underserved communities, et cetera, et cetera. So the fact that the county was spending so much time dealing with sports teams was really a distraction from our core mission and core responsibility. And it was a major distraction, particularly when we had 3 sports teams there. When you had the Raiders, the Warriors, and the A's, it was a major distraction dealing with those sports teams. And because each of them wants what they want, when they want it, how they want it. And the Raiders were very litigious, and then the Warriors could be. I think the least litigious was the A's, but still there was a lot of litigation associated with the sports teams as well. So my feeling was the county just needs to get out of the sports business and let the city be the one entity that's dealing with the sports teams, because the teams are in the city of Oakland. Obviously, the city of Oakland is in the county of Alameda, but the teams are in the city of Oakland. And instead of the teams having to deal with both the city and the county, deal with one entity in terms of your contracts, your deals, your stadiums, everything you're trying to pursue. And the county can just get out of this and let the city basically determine its own future relative to the sports franchises. So that was kind of my thinking around all this. And then, you complicate that with, you got a city, you got a county, then you got a joint powers authority, a JPA that's made up of representatives from both those governmental bodies. So in essence, you got a 3-headed monster trying to deal with three sports teams. And it's like, this is just crazy. This is just crazy. Yeah. So
You also at that point then spearheaded. I have an old letter from Dave Cobble to Mayor Schaff expressing the Athletics' interest in buying the whole Coliseum and retiring the bond debt. Remember that in 2018, about July 2018, right? But where did it pick up from there to where half became the competition between the African American Sports and Entertainment Group and Dave Stewart? That's what I was trying to figure out in my head. I was thinking, how do we go from his initial letter, right, which was go buy the whole thing, to that other part? And I think, was that a city action on the city? That's right. The city side wanted to do that, right? That's how we got into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah.
It was a city. What was your feeling about that at the time?
I think I'm still there.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah.
The camera's gone out. I can't see you or something. Oh,
really?
there we go. Yeah. So yeah. Well, it's kind of 2020 hindsight at this point, but I think it would have been better if the city could have negotiated a sale to the athletics. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is what they wanted, right? Yeah, absolutely. There's some people who have questions.
And conditioned it upon the athletics building a stadium and staying in Oakland.
Yeah, and that's something else too. I want to kind of ping pong with you a bit. I've always been in favor of public funding for stadiums, but I've also always been in favor of finding mechanisms where you didn't necessarily have to, use it. But the reason I hold this firm view now, Nate, is it goes back to something Elihu told me decades ago when I asked him why, and probably yourself, why you got into politics and law. And he said that for us as black folks, it was the only way you get into the game. And right. And so similarly, if we say to people who now we say are billionaires, they're owning these teams, what better way to make sure the government's interests are represented than if the government has some monetary stake in the game, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
my feeling,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And what's your feeling on that by chance? I mean, you don't have to agree with me, but I'm just curious what your feeling is, you know.
No, I think that's an accurate statement and direction. Yeah, I don't think we need to open up the vaults, but I think there's a role for government to play in these with these sports franchises, and we're seeing that play out in Las Vegas because now they got the Raiders, and they're probably going to end up with the A's as well. Yeah, and I think Las Vegas benefits from the fact that they also have the state legislature
Yeah.
and the governor behind them. I mean, can you imagine in Oakland if we'd had the state legislature and the governor behind us in terms of trying to deliver relative to the Raiders and the A's? Recognizing, yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And it's interesting because Gavin set up the financing in a sense when he passed SB 293 Skinner and then also signed into law the fast track law that Rob Bonta, AB 1121 Bonta, if I'm not mistaken. The numbers I got wrong, but it's definitely Rob Bonta. It's premature, right? So Gavin set the tone up, but he sort of like left it alone after that. I was like, okay, I gave it, and that's it. There's some people who have some questions here. One, Dupree asks, do you think Oakland will get a new baseball team in the future?
I think Oakland will not get a new baseball team in the future if Oakland continues to be at war with the commissioner in Major League Baseball. Because as I understand it, it's sort of like it's a club, and billionaires belong to the club, and they have a commissioner that works for them. And I don't see them wanting to support an expansion team coming to Oakland if we continue to bash them. My position is I'm sad the A's are leaving. As one person said, I wish they would change their name to something else in Las Vegas and leave the name of the A's in with Oakland because there's so much rich history here, and then try to work with the A's on let's say a proper and altruistic exit from Oakland, so that they get what they want, but we can get what we want as well. But I don't think we'll get a team if we go to war. I don't think that'll happen.
That offers the question: since the A's are now going to stay here another year, does that mean that discussions have already opened up about some type of arrangement or deal or anything? Not regardless of where it goes,
Not yet, but that's what I feel needs to happen. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Earl Jacobs says, did the city of Oakland ever seek out assistance from the county to try and figure things out related to a new ballpark?
Yes. The city asked the county to support an enhanced infrastructure financing district, and maybe that would be as much as $150 million. And the board of supervisors, we agreed to that in concept.
Yeah, but that's what I'm getting at. It stopped there. There was, the county, not the registrar, but the
auditor.
Yeah, the auditor, the assessor is what I was thinking about, because the assessor really gets involved regarding assessed value that has to be officially recorded, for Howard Terminal in the base year, and does all that work, right? And I remember he made one presentation, and then everything just sort of stopped. Yeah, it was like, okay, so we were supposed to do a public financing authority. There was a lot that we were supposed to do that not only didn't get done, there was no plan. There was one study, and that was it.
Yeah.
And so my thought is, where do you believe the hearts and minds of both the city and the county are with respect to, and I'm going to say it, sports as economic development?
Well, can you still see me? Because I can't see you.
See you. Yeah, I can see you. Yeah.
You can see me, but I can't see you. I wonder what's going on.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, you want to go out and come back? I can see you loud and clear. You're like bright.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah,
There we
you're
go.
bright.
Okay.
You're bright. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's debate on both sides whether or not sports teams actually produce a lot of economic development opportunity, jobs, commercial activity, taxes, things of that nature. I think there's a debate on both sides of that. And regardless of what side you fall down on, the one thing we do know that's a fact, sports teams bring goodwill.
Yeah.
They bring goodwill. I mean, people know about the Oakland A's, the Oakland Raiders, the Warriors all over the world. And you can't buy that type of goodwill if you have a team in your city. And Oakland, God bless Oakland, but unfortunately for Oakland had 3 sports teams.
Yep.
And that's a lot of goodwill. And I think with that goodwill, and then you couple it with whatever economic vitality a sports team brings, I think we do come out on the plus side.
And see, I want to show you something on that note that I think will have an impact on how a number of people think about this. And it's from Google Trends. And if you just simply do a search for Oakland as a city, here, this is Google Trends from 2004 to present, going left to right. And if you can see it, I'll circle it here. Our biggest was right here, where when the NBA Finals, I don't know if you can see that. Let me try that here, right here. See that?
Yeah.
That was 2017 NBA, the Warriors' success there. If I put it right about there, I'm trying to make it mark and stand there. And then for some reason that little sign won't come up. Yeah, 2016, and then it goes into 2017. It's Warriors related news, but then it scales down, and then right at 2019, when both the Raiders and the Warriors leave, look, and the number of searches specifically regarding Oakland, the city, not just Oakland, a term, go down. Now, imagine what will happen when we lose the A's, right?
Sure. Oh, sure.
And to gain that, I've estimated that's $100 million of money that we'd have to spend to visit Oakland, just to equate that, just to lift that back up.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why, I mean, people mention economists, but what bothers me, Nate, is that Supervisor, I'll give you an example. J.C. Bradbury is an economist at Kennesaw State here in Georgia, and he is always taught. I figured it out. He did one study to name a number of them of Truist Park, saying that, looking at business valuations and saying that, well, a new ballpark didn't cause business valuations to increase. But he looked at them between 2013 and 2019. Guess what? The ballpark didn't open until 2017. Okay, and then he took the ballpark, which also is a mixed-use development, out of his calculations. So naturally, they're not going to look right. My point is, there are a number of economists, because remember I had sports business simulations, and I had Dan Rasher and Rod Ford on my board. These guys didn't cherry pick, but they know which economists cherry pick, and a lot of them who get into this, they cherry pick, and they think that lay people are not going to bother, and normally they don't, to look at their data. So I'm just throwing it out to you as far as what you presented. It's really a reason they use it as a raison d'etre, like in Professor Bradbury's case, to criticize unions. So, and this gets back to what I'm saying about governments having skin in the game and be able to ensure that there's union employment. Well, you have these economists that basically will openly attack anything and say, well, it's only the unions, and they'll write this stuff, and they think no one's paying attention or putting it together. And this is what happened in the middle of the matter of Las Vegas trying to get the A's and everything else. So I'm just putting that out there as a warning, right? And so also take us back to, having said all that, take us back to the first, remember Let's Go Oakland and Howard Terminal then? What from your perspective went wrong that time, because there's been a number of times that we talked about the ballpark downtown, but we forgot about what Doug Boxer and Mike Gilmetti were trying to do,
Mhm.
around the turn of the second decade of the 21st century, right? Remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, for sure. There have been so many
Yeah.
efforts. Yeah. So many efforts.
Right.
And that's why, I mean, the fans, I have a lot of sympathy for the fans, but if the fans really stepped away from it and look at it, there have been so many efforts to try to keep this team and provide them with the type of facility they wanted in Oakland that have just not materialized.
No.
So many efforts. Yeah.
No. And I remember someone saying on Twitter, well, they've been here for 55 years, but I said, well, for 30 of those 55 years, they tried to move. I remember when Steve Schott tried to move to Sacramento in 96.
Yeah, right.
And then we almost got Frank Robinson and the Magic Johnson to buy the A's.
Yeah.
And, I mean, and there are so many efforts with you and others, and of course at the JPA, and it's not like we didn't try.
Right.
No one can say we didn't try. You can criticize the effort here and there, and but my concern is Dan Kalb seemed to suggest tearing down the Coliseum Stadium. What say
you? I don't know if I'd tear it down. It might need to be have a facelift.
Yeah.
And deal with some of the it's an old facility. So do you tear it down and build another facility similar, or do you take those bones that are there and revitalize them? So
hey, I figured out the other day, and I forgot that I came to this realization several years ago, but do you realize, and correct me if I'm wrong, but during the Loma Prieta earthquake, the Coliseum emerged without a scratch?
Yeah, right.
And so I'm thinking, why should we tear that down if that structure is that strong, right? Maybe we should. That's what I was trying to tell Mark Davis when he said, come up with a stadium plan. And I used that, and he wanted it torn down. I said, Mark, are you kidding? Right? So maybe we're looking at it the wrong way in terms of memorializing that properly, huh?
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's interesting. Is it that we don't value? I'm not talking about you. You certainly do, and everyone's. But is it that as a culture our housing costs have become so expensive that it's hard for us to really wrap our minds around, the kind of sports related efforts we used to do?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And sports has become such a big business too. A big business, a big industry. Yeah. And that's what I was trying to describe earlier. I mean, it's an exclusive club. I mean, the baseball, Major League Baseball, the NBA, and at least the NBA's got some black owners. Yeah. But, we get over to Major League Baseball, we don't see that. And then football, the NFL, you don't see that. But you're talking exclusive clubs and pretty much billionaires.
Yeah. And but my thought, and I'd like to know your thought on this, is regardless of, the club, right? I think of it as, okay, these folks, men and women, because they're like Lauren Powell Jobs is a multi-billionaire, who invests in sports teams, and she lives in DC. But they can be, why not get them as contributors to our economy in terms of their investments in taxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's my thought. I mean, my thought is, what do you think?
Yeah. And that's why I have a lot of hope in the African American Sports and Entertainment Group. That's why I'd like to have, instead of us going to war with the A's, I would have the A's work with the African American Sports and Entertainment Group, and I've said this publicly, sell their interest to the African American Sports and Entertainment Group, or lease their interest, but work with the African American Sports and Entertainment Group, because I think that could be monumental in terms of what happens out at the Coliseum site, and to have it under African American leadership, financial leadership, development leadership, and everything associated with that. I think that could be financially, I think it'd be good for the A's. I don't think they would And I think in terms of goodwill, it'd be good for the A's as well. So you got your, you're going to get your stadium in Las Vegas. It's $1 billion stadium, getting almost $400 million from, state of Nevada. All right. But now, so you don't leave such a sour taste in the mouth of the fans here, in the community here. Work with us. Work with us. Work with us. So that's what I'd like to see happen. And I think that, and because, I'm leading an effort around reparations. Imagine African Americans, the sports and entertainment group, being the leader of the development that takes place out on that property and in that Coliseum complex. Absolutely. Oh, that could be a game changer. Yeah. Yeah,
definitely. Mark Thompson lives in Las Vegas. He says, I agree. I've got a national audience now, Nate.
Okay.
Hey, curious on that. How was the JPA meeting this morning? Because my days have been blurring, and I thought, okay, well, it's next Thursday. And I thought, I didn't look at this. So I'm just, I'm going to be candid and say that I dropped the ball, which if I were on the board, I wouldn't do, because but what was the agenda today?
Mainly the budget, passing the budget for the new year. And it's about $42 million, and we're doing pretty well. So that was the main focus of today's meeting. And we had some closed session matters that we had to discuss, related to the Coliseum site and what's going on. Yeah.
There was something, if you can't, I'll just ask it anyway. I remember in the previous meeting, there was mention of litigation, but it didn't say what kind or who or anything else. Are you now at liberty to talk about that?
No.
Okay. And where are we with the Oakland Roots?
Oh, we're negotiating with the Roots. So I'm hoping that we can bring that across the finish line, because I think having a soccer team there would bode well. And then we're also working with trying to get a WNBA team.
Yeah. How's that going?
Everything is moving along. I would say Roots is further along than the WNBA team, but it's we're making some headway.
On the Roots matter, and I meant to ask this question to the JPA, has anyone squared the circle regarding drainage down at Malibu? Because my fear is based on the sea level rise study, which in that area does get waterlogged. It's got two tributaries that cross it left and right, and forming a triangle. Have the Roots solved that puzzle by plan yet?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
And I'm going to shift gears just a little bit, because you're obviously not running a sports commission. You're a county supervisor. What is on your plate that you'd like people to know about while we're talking?
And from the county's perspective?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, the county will be passing our budget at the end of the month. Our budget's about $4 billion, and our budget gap is about $50 million. So we'll be able to cover the budget gap and balance our budget and pass the budget for the next fiscal year.
That's not me. Sorry about that. I thought that put that on silent, but whatever. I have to take care of it. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so the only way we would end up having some additional challenges is if something goes wrong up in Sacramento, because whenever the state coughs, we get the effect of that in terms of new mandates, unfunded mandates, things of that nature. So as long as things continue down the track they're on in Sacramento and nothing becomes impactful for the county, we should be pretty good for the next fiscal year. It's not like the city. The city's got a $360-some million budget deficit, and that's over 2 years.
Yeah.
So that's quite a chunk they're trying to address.
And I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And I was just going to say, one of the other things we just recently did is we've approved an electoral commission, where we're going to have a commission that will work to provide, I wouldn't say oversight, but to work with the registrar of voters on election integrity and election preparation and things of that nature. Yeah.
Congratulations. That was sort of neat. For those who don't know, the Oakland mayor election was hit a bit of a snag. I don't want to talk about it too far here, but it's good that you're getting that straight, or on the way to getting that straightened out, if not straightening that out. But Mark Thompson mentioned something that caused me to ask a question I almost forgot about. And he says also the latest news about MLB not having diversity. I talked to Richard Haig, who's one of our bloggers who went to the reverse boycott. And I said, Richard, did you see anyone black there? Because I looked at all these pictures and it was white, entirely. And I thought, wow. And I was just floored. I would have been there certainly. And he was saying, and Richard is white and Syrian by descent. And he said, Zennie, you would have been probably one of 27,000. And so I looked it up and I discovered that Major League Baseball has had the fewest black players since 1955, Supervisor. Yeah, 1955. So my fear, okay, is and I'd like to respond to this, is that Major League Baseball doesn't solve that riddle of getting more of us involved as we were. It's going to be harder for them to get public money in the future. What say you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And, Congressperson Lee and DeSagne are already looking at legislation. Yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about that? That's the Moneyball legislation. What do you think about it?
Yeah. I don't want to say it's too little, too late, because I wish that had been in play, 5 years ago or something, because it's going to benefit others down the road if it passes. And I don't think it's going to benefit Oakland, but yeah. And I think Barbara was even talking about Major League Baseball might have their antitrust position jeopardized and revisited. And I know they don't want to have that happen.
Yeah, because when I first heard Barbara's plan, I thought, was it retroactive?
Right.
Thought, oh my goodness. Nate, when are we going to get a sports commission? I keep talking about that, but wow, we need one now more than ever, eh?
Yeah. I think that would help us for sure.
Can a citizen put that on the agenda of the JPA, or am I locked out, or will they make like a Zennie exception? Or
well, what's your relationship with Rebecca Kaplan?
Oh, well, I love Rebecca, but I'm, me, I let you know where I'm coming from. And so I think her view of me probably shifts with whatever opinion I landed, on whatever day. But I've known Rebecca since, my Lord, 2005.
Yeah.
I've known you longer.
Yeah.
You and I go back to 1988, something like that. No, I think, no, I know you and I go back to 1996.
Okay.
I do know.
Okay.
So I've known everybody for a long time. And I think Rebecca, if it were something that were in Rebecca's interest as an elected official, that she felt benefited her constituents and her objectives, I think she would be all over it, and it's my job to prove that that's the case.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it,
Yeah. If you could sell that to her, she's the chair of the JPA.
Sure.
She gets behind it.
Yeah.
I have no problem.
By the way, Nate, I'm the one who made the video of her coming up with the WNBA idea to begin with,
okay.
right?
Okay.
So, as far as I'm concerned, she owes me forever.
Yeah. So I think if you could kind of show her how a sports commission would be beneficial around all these endeavors. Yeah.
Well, I think you hit up on it earlier when you talked about the county having to deal with matters of 3 sports teams, and yet there was no sports commission to do that, to basically change the view that we have as a region, as a sub-region of sports, which is just that, it's sports, as opposed to you have a facility in the stadium that seats almost 60,000 people. You have an arena that seats 20,000, and a sports commission can go out and attract as many as 200 sports events to its region. All right. And so we have to have a changeover plan, like for the Roots. We should have a changeover plan in the Coliseum so that the Roots can be in the Coliseum rather than outside of it. Why? Because that increases our sponsorship value. So the more businesses in terms of sports activities we get in the Coliseum, the higher our naming rights sponsorship value becomes, okay? Which inures to our benefit financially, right? So there's one example of the advantage right there. In addition to being able to help our Commission and Visitors Bureau, our Visit Oakland, by identifying its facilities and then fitting the sports event into that facility, wherever it may be. It could be downtown Oakland with our convention center, which is 8 times smaller than we need right now, which is something else that I learned when I was trying to bring Super Bowl to Oakland. I actually had developed a list of our facility deficiencies. So I was able to turn around and say, okay, we need to expand the convention center downtown. We need something of 900,000 square feet. Why? Because we can get a number of different events. And I had actually marked those events that we could get. So my point is, a sports commission provides a roadmap for economic development at a time when every city, particularly here in the South and the East, is their sports economic development hungry. And it translates in other events. And today, I'm going to stop because I mean to go off on a diatribe. You kind of gave me an open door there. But my point is, and we'll talk about it later, but I think that's how it would help. That's just one bit of it, something you need.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, switching gears, what's your next, what's on your radar next? It's regarding the budget, I believe, but also, is there any initiative that you want my viewers to know about and be active in paying attention to or advocating for or against if it's something that you want stopped?
Well, I think the one initiative that I'm really pushing at the moment is our Reparations Commission, putting together our Citizens Commission and coming up with an agenda, reparations agenda that the county action plan that the county can adopt. And I'm not fond of compensatory payment to African Americans. I think that's one aspect of reparations, but I think I'd much rather look at how can we address, the injustices in education, or the abundance of African Americans in the prison, locked up in the criminal justice system, or the disparities in healthcare, things of that nature. How can we build wealth among African Americans? So so I'm hoping that when we create our Citizens Commission, which the board has approved, and they get about doing their work around raising the concerns and letting folks know the reasons why reparations is needed and important and worthwhile, that the action plan they bring back to us isn't just around, figuring out which African Americans could qualify for a paycheck or for a payment. I don't think that's the strongest approach in terms of providing the necessary foundation that would uplift the entire African American community. So that's kind of the reparations I'm looking for. So,
I have to ask you, how far do we go in the calculation? Because I'm for the idea, but I remember, for example, when I personally discovered racism, just me, and I was 9 years old. I was at Avalon Park Elementary in Chicago. We had to fight or play basketball there to succeed. I did neither. And I went to my principal and I said, I can't learn your school. I want to leave. And so they had me tested in something called an IQ test. I had no idea what that was. It was 156. And my teacher, who I really liked up to that point, when she told me what I'm about to tell you, said that there was no possible way I could be that smart because I'm Black. Okay. That puts in your head, and she had me retested. I was 131. And obviously, by the fact that I'm recounting this to you, I'm 60, I'll be 61, means that it had a profound effect on my life. That, if you're white, you don't get that. And it stops, and that income gap begins to grow because the opportunities are opened up to someone who a person believes should be that smart versus someone they think shouldn't be simply because of the color of their skin. So how far do we go with reparations, given the number of fights that we, you and I and others have faced over our lifetimes?
I'm not quite sure I understand the question when you say how far.
Well, yeah, I don't know the answer to it. When I say how far, I'm thinking, do we go back? Because sometimes I think it's just people who have actually been enslaved, and you can say, okay, you've been right, that sort of thing. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, what about just compensation for racism as a way of getting society to stop being that way and realizing there's a monetary price to pay?
Yeah. Well, once again, I think with the state task force on reparations in California, I think they've came up with a formula to try to see what African Americans could qualify for compensation, and tracing it back to slavery and this, that, and the other. I'm still of the mindset under reparations. How can we address the injustices that we as a race experience? And a lot of that's derived from slavery and discrimination and things of that nature. So that's kind of more or less the mindset I'm under. And I think the reparations doesn't, and I think the state task force pointed this out. Reparations doesn't have to be compensatory. It can be that. It can be programs. It can be policies. It can be symbolic. There are a lot of forms of reparations. Quite frankly, if we can get the African American Sports and Entertainment Group to be, if the A's wanted to do something that would give them a lot of goodwill, they could turn. I'm not saying they would, but they could deed their interest in the property after they've purchased it from the county, or even before that, to the African American Sports and Entertainment Group as a form of trying to rectify injustices and working with this group to build up the black community. Yeah, so that's just a far-fetched dream, but
sure, yeah.
And I'm gonna have to get going shortly here.
I know, and that's why I wanted to get this in under the wire if I could. When are we going to get sports gambling in California? Because the reason why the A's are leaving is because Major League Baseball wants to be where there's gambling. And we fumbled the ball in terms of a number of ways regarding gambling in California. When do we stop fumbling the ball and get it going?
Well, that you and I are going to have to disagree on.
Okay.
I think gambling should be restricted to certain places. And obviously the Native American reservations have gotten casinos as a way of helping uplift their life through having casinos. But I just don't think having gambling, the proliferation of gambling and the easiness of gambling is healthy for our society. Yeah. So I would rather keep it and restrict it to Vegas, Reno, Native American casinos, that sort of thing, and not let it proliferate any further.
But my question goes back to, it's related to reparations. If you want economic spread and economic fairness, how about opportunity for me to, for example, in Oakland, to be able to start and own a sports book, right? Or develop one at the Coliseum, which really does need a sports book, and bring in Bally's, right? But the way we're doing it now, I can't do that. I have to work with Indian Gaming, and maybe they're prejudiced and they don't want me involved because I'm black, right?
Yeah, right.
So how does that solve the problem?
Right.
I'm asking.
Right. Well, we just have to figure out how we can carve out our niche.
Yeah. Fun stuff.
Yeah, because the Native Americans obviously have been able to do the casino piece on the reservations. So maybe through this whole reparations effort, we can figure out how we can carve out our niche. Yeah.
Nate, I'm gonna let you go.
Okay. All right.
You want me to time you out? You know how to push the button, and I want to thank former Oakland Councilmember, now Alameda County Supervisor Nate Miley, a great person, heart of gold, does a lot of work for a lot of people, and I've never seen Nate get super mad about anything, and not that you don't, but I'm saying that the way you show it. Is admirable. So yeah, he has his moments, Yes. By the way, Earl Jacobs says, does the arena operate in the black? And I believe it does.
Yeah. We're concerned about that once the Warriors left, but we've been very, very fortunate. Yeah, things have been turning a profit there at the arena.
Yeah. Hey, I'll close you out. I'll go out with you, everybody. We're gonna have tomorrow Vern Glenn on at 7 o'clock Eastern. 7 o'clock his time, 7 o'clock Pacific. Vern Glenn of KPIX, whom is he jumping into KRON? I don't know. Anyway, join us tomorrow. I can't wait. Mr. Excitement. They used to call him Mr. Involvement. Remember that, Nate? All right. So that ends this broadcast. Nick, stick around in the background. You don't have to do anything. I'll go out with you.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your questions. That ends this broadcast, folks. Whoops. We'll see you.